This issue of us having a nominal figure, an absolute figure, where we say that our debt is a particular figure, Honorable Speaker, as a country we need to have a discourse.
The proposal to replace the 10 trillion shillings debt ceiling with a debt anchor at 55% of the gross domestic product first made its way into Parliament mid-last year, with the then MPs from the ruling side defending the criteria.
Realistically, we are in this situation where we cannot do a budget for this country now unless we adjust our financing limitation that we put on ourselves.
When we grow our wealth in terms of the GDP, then it means also that we also need to have more legroom for borrowing.
However, their efforts were shot down by their Kenya Kwanza counterparts, who vehemently opposed anything to do with the debt ceiling variation.
Before you tell us how much you are borrowing, earmark for us the specific projects that you intend to utilize that public debt on.
The criticism on the borrowing appetite of the then regime led by retired President Uhuru Kenyatta was the order of the day throughout the Kenya Kwanza campaigns, with the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi leading the onslaught.
The National Assembly and the Senate must avoid any further strangulation of Kenyans with additional debt by refusing any request for approval of a new debt ceiling.
However, barely a year down the line,
and we are saying our debt carrying capacity, our optimal or desired debt carrying capacity, will now be anchored at 55% of GDP in net present value terms.
President William Ruto's cabinet is back in Parliament seeking its hand in replacing the 10 trillion shilling debt ceiling with a debt anchor at 55% of the gross domestic product.
Today, we are 9.14 trillion against the 10 trillion mark that we put, an absolute figure that basically, if you ask what is the basis of the 10 trillion shillings, is nothing, and it's just a figure.
If adopted, it then means that Kenya is already in breach of the proposal, since her debt is above 70% of the GDP, presenting a headache for the Ruto's administration to scale back the figure.
There are some who will be very emotional here. There are some who will say all manner of things. But the truth is, we cannot fund the next budget without altering the debt ceiling.
With the proposal awaiting approval, the government will for now toil to raise revenue generation and collection to offset some of the debts in order to realize their own projects, a move that may see Kenyans suffer even more.
Hakuna haja ya kufungua ikuwe hiyo kubwa. Afadhali tufungue tuweke limit kama ya 10 trillion. Tukifika 10 trillion, tusimamie hapo.
Tunataka awachane na maneno ya loan, apunguzie sisi gharama ya maisha ya vyakula irudi chini kidogo.
Already, the Kenya Revenue Authority has stopped tax reliefs with effect from February 28th this year to enhance revenue collection and redirection of resources to finance priority areas, support development programs, as well as power the bottom-up transformation agenda. Philip Murutu, K24, Nairobi.